I want you to try out one of these biscuits. It is the Beagle's favorite, but I don't know where he's at. So tell me what you think.
Your honest opinion, Frank.
Would you eat another bite? Oh, he's going back for more.
Yep, that's approval. It's a little breezy, so I hope.
Don't say nothing. It could get up at 65 mile an hour anyway, but it is good to be outside. There's my wagon, my teepee, my favorite tumbleweed. Things is good in the world. You know what I need right now more than anything? Besides a kiss and some love? Biscuit. My mother used to make them at holidays, and it is the bread now that you make most of the time when we do something, right?
This is my favorite bread to make, and I've been kind of, I guess, self-promoted to the baker on the wagon. So I mostly do like all the desserts and breads and stuff, and I like this one the best because one, it's a little less temperamental than sourdough, especially like if we're out on the wagon and if it's cold. It rises better and does a little better than sourdough. Another bonus to this is you can pre-make it, stick it in a plastic bag and stick it in the fridge and like cook it the next morning. If we're waking up at 2:45 in the morning, I like to make bread the night before.
Yeah.
And then you can let it rise.
Yeah.
So
let's get started, don't you?
Let's do it. Here's the deal with yeast. If you're using rapid rise yeast, that means it's a non-proofing yeast.
Non-proofing.
Proofing just means you're going to take your yeast and add it to a little warm liquid and let it set, and then it gets bubbly. So technically rapid rise yeast is usually what we always use, and you can mix it directly in. However, I do like to proof all my yeast because one, that'll let you know if it's good or not. And so if it starts like bubbling up, you know it's good. I'll take my yeast, put a little warm water with it, stir it up. At this point too, you always want to add your yeast and your sugar together because they'll help activate each other.
One.
Go ahead and just add the
two. And you're going to stir, and then I'll put in 2 more, right?
And then go ahead and add that to there. So it's 4 tablespoons sugar total. I use 2 in here and 2 in the other just to help activate it. Let's just let that hang out. This is a special day here at the wagon because we hardly ever have actual buttermilk.
That is true.
Because it just kind of takes up room in our ice chests if we're out there.
2.5 cups of buttermilk, sugar.
And if you don't have buttermilk, you can make your own. Can't tell the nice folks at home how to make their own buttermilk.
Lemon juice or vinegar. We have done it many times. It don't take much.
Cup of milk to a tablespoon of lemon juice or vinegar. Whisk it, let it set for maybe 5 minutes. It creates its own buttermilk. Isn't that fun?
Yes. Teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
1/3 of a cup of oil. Okay. 3 teaspoons of baking powder.
My hair is blowing in the breeze.
1
teaspoon of baking soda. I'll go ahead and add my yeast in. As I've become a bread maker, I have not measured the amount of flour that I add to the wet mixture. The reason is, and I think this originally came from using sourdough so much because depending on your climate, sourdough consistency changes, therefore your flour content changes.
Moisture.
I'm going to show you, we're looking more for consistency. So let's go ahead and start with about 1.5 cups of flour. And when you add flour to your bread, throw away your whisk because it's just going to clump up.
Don't throw it away. I like it. My gosh.
I'll do the dishes later.
Let's
go ahead and add another cup.
That makes about 1.5 cups.
And this makes
3.
What? This is going to make quite a bit of biscuits.
About
so 20 to 25, I think. So I'm about 4.5 cups, and you can see how it's like binding together, but we're still pretty sticky. So I'm going to just start kind of folding and flipping to incorporate this added flour. If you've got a whisk or a sifter, that works really well. Here's our consistency. I'm still pretty tacky on the outside, but we're going to take care of that as I put it on the board. Flour your surface pretty well. And I'm going to dump this out.
Whew.
Still tacky. So what we're going to do is I'm going to sift a pretty generous amount on top. I'm going to flour my hands just a tad. And what I like to do is kind of sneak up on it. And we're going to come over and we're just going to like flip it. You're not digging into it, so just flip it. And we're using that flour from the board.
Yes.
And just kind of incorporating some more. Just lightly flip.
But like we tell folks, the more you work a piece of dough, if
Right.
it's a biscuit, the drier it's going to become.
You don't want to knead this. We're trying to get the sticky away from the outside of it.
Yeah.
That's why I flipped it and kind of coated it. But we want to keep some of that sticky on the inside to keep that
Yes.
moisture. So I've noticed the biggest thing people do is when they're flipping, they're going to dig into it
Yeah.
and flip it. Well,
And then you just start all over.
Then, well, of course, that's going to, like, then it's too sticky and you add more flour. No, you just want to work, just keep on the outside of it, lightly flip. Don't dig into it.
Look there at that golden goodness in there called butter. Make sure,
got a
as you
dip?
can see, that you get it all the way around. What is your desired thickness, sugar?
I don't, what do you think? A quarter, like
No,
over a quarter?
I'd say nearly a half inch.
Nearly, really?
Yeah.
Okay. We're taking our fancy cutter here.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Hold up, hold up
There
there.
is a big debate out there. How to cut your biscuits out. So word on the street is you're supposed to just go like just straight down, pull it out. You're not supposed to twist it as you go because that's supposed to seal
That's
the edges
right.
and then it won't rise.
That is right.
I don't know. It's
Huh?
really hard for me. It's my natural reaction to give it a little twist, but we'll see. Dipping one side and the other, turn it over the other side in butter, and then just moving it over to the edge.
Yes, ma'am.
How his mom used to do it, used to batter them both sides in the butter and then flip them over kind of like a taco. That's why they're called the angel wings, because they look like little
Angel
angels.
flake.
Oh, angel flakes, like their wings are coming together. So you can do it that way, or I'm just doing it like a regular biscuit. You've cut them out. Go ahead and bring your dough back together again. Don't knead it a bunch, just kind of gather it. And at this second phase, I just press it because again, like we don't want to be kneading it a bunch. This is going to fill a 12 just about exactly. I will tell you too, I really highly recommend cooking this in cast iron. With that butter, it's going to help make a really great crust. Even if you're doing it in the oven, you want to make sure you're cooking this in something that has a sidewall and then they're pretty close together so they rise up. Otherwise, they're going to rise out. And
We ain't making flatbread. Put the lid on this.
We're using a tall trivet today. We always, when using hardwood, use a tall trivet when we're baking breads especially. And it's a little windy today, so if it is windy where you are, bring it up off the seat just a little bit. Your circle was a little heavier than we would normally do on bread, but you pulled it out quite a ways.
Pulled it quite a ways from it, especially on the wind side of it.
Yes. The width or heaviness of the coals of the circle is kind of how you regulate heat along with your trivet.
And depends on the hardwood that you're using.
Solid layer on top. You can always regulate that as it's cooking because you can see, it's browning a little too much, knock a little of that heat off. It is windy today, so we're going to rotate a little more frequently.
And I need to do that right now if you don't mind.
Go ahead and rotate it. There's so much butter on it. It'll either slowly soak up into the biscuit more, or if you've got kind of a little hotter heat to begin with, it'll almost give it a little fry action and create kind of a golden, nearly crispy crust on the bottom.
Hold on a minute.
If you're just starting out, I would maybe go with a lighter ring. What I'll do is I'll give it a little blast of heat at the beginning, a little thicker coal, a little thicker ring, just maybe for a minute or so. It kind of depends. And then I'll back it off because I want to give it a blast of heat, a little fry.
Get that crunch.
But any way you do it, it's good.
Looking for separation to begin on the outside edge, and it's cooking pretty fast.
This edge right here, it's starting to brown up just a tad. So
what we're going to do is slow this rascal down due to the wind that is blowing today. And since it ain't got no knob to turn down the heat, what are we going to do? We're going to set it right over here to take it plumb off the heat. We're going to let it slow down a little. Especially in windy conditions, or if you have your coals too close together right next to the oven, things are going to cook quicker. You can't turn down a knob to regulate the heat. Set it off away from the heat. Cast iron is holding heat. It's going to keep it in there. Let it slow down, take it off that heat. We can always go back, But once it's burned, it's too late.
Try to pull that back edge just slightly so it doesn't like hurt the biscuit, but that way you can tell.
See that brown?
I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's starting to brown. So that's definitely when we'd want to take it off that heat.
We've said so many times before, take it off that bottom heat. When you see it begin to separate from that outside wall, use your fork if you need to, pull it over where you can see that brown in action. All right, you can see, if you look here, I got a biscuit here in the middle. He is fast. He's ahead of everybody in this race, so we're going to target the heat a little. So we're going to actually pull the heat away from the center and get it back over here to this outside edge.
Like, long at all. What do you think? We were on maybe 10 minutes?
10 to 12 minutes. I mean, usually, especially in windy conditions, the thing you have to worry with not only burning something, is cooking something where it's done on top, done on bottom, and doughy in the middle.
So that's why, see, we're a little darker here. That's why you targeted your heat. You pulled it out to bring in some of this.
Whoa!
Look, so this is what I'm talking about. And see that nice golden, and that's a nice crispy deal. Let that cool for a minute. If you're just starting out with this and you're not sure about heat regulation, go lighter coal and a lighter ring.
See the holes in that bread? Yeah. That's what makes bread light and fluffy.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Light, fluffy.
This is a great blend of light and fluffy, and then that buttery crunch at the bottom. This is my favorite biscuit. Great these are for. That's like Yoda talk.
Who?
Star Wars Yoda. These are great for making ahead of time. Be sure to, if you can, cook them in cast iron. It's going to give a better bake and crust, either a skillet or in a Dutch oven. Tall trivet, if you're using a hardwood coal. Light coal, add a little blast heat at the beginning if you want to try to get that crust.
We thank you. We don't take it for granted that you stop by and watch these videos. We appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your busy day. We hope we help you with your cooking, give you a little entertainment. Thank you for tuning in. God bless each and every one. And as we always say, hit that subscribe button. And the link will be below the video for the recipe.
Below the video. Check it out.